Is marriage just an exchange of intimacy for resources? This is something that I've been saying on my channel for a long time, but I had a discussion with a female actually earlier today about this, and she was asserting that, that's normal, that's natural. She even went so far as to say that most marriages are founded upon that. And I actually agreed with her. I said, yeah. And don't you think that's prostitution? And she got really upset about that. And she's just like trying to, she couldn't really answer the question, but she was trying to, as females do, they try to attack you personally and act like you're the problem when you're just calling out an objective, observable fact, right? So let's get into that just quickly, briefly for a second here. And this is something that's far-reaching because, someone like me, I'm a Christian, and so Christians, in the Bible, they believe that, you should be married. Now, today, a lot of people are kind of dubious on marriage and, should you get married, particularly men, which very understandable. And even I myself, in the past, have advocated that men probably shouldn't marry in today's climate. However, from a Christian standpoint, men should marry, and it's a problem, and it's a big issue that's really affecting humanity in general. Because when we put a price tag on love and intimacy, right, it muddies, damages the depth of what that relationship could be, the potential to what it could be. But because we live in such a materialistic driven society, and we live in such a society where everything is about money, people throw away friends because of money, people throw away family because of money, people throw away loyalty because of money, and statistically, marriage or divorce, marriages that end in divorce, statistically, top 3 reason why why the divorce happens is financial reasons. Meaning, there's a lot of marriages that are ending, and a lot of divorces that are happening because of lack of finances, or just finances are an issue. So it's a big problem, and hard. I question I question just the basis of what that is, So in essence, the conversation went something like this with this young woman. I asserted that when you exchange intimacy and love for resources, meaning if you won't choose a guy because he doesn't have enough money for you, that means you're selling yourself. Bottom line, if you won't choose a guy, or you won't continue to date a guy, or you find out the guy that you're interested in is broke or whatever, if you say, I'm not going to date a guy unless he makes a certain amount of money, you are essentially pimping yourself out. You're selling yourself. And I would argue, and I've argued this on my channel since pretty much day one, that women, there's something in their nature that wants to sell themselves. It's always in the conversation. How much money do you make? What career do you have? Always. The only time it's not in the conversation is when you have a woman who makes her own money to such an extent that she really doesn't care if the man makes money or not. And that's rare. It does happen. I've seen it, but it's rare. And in those cases, a lot of times, the woman is masculine herself, right? She's basically, for all intents and purposes, she acts and behaves like a man. She has an executive type of brain. 9 times out of 10, she's in a management position. And men are not attracted to that. So there's a conundrum. There's a paradox here, and there's a clash, right? Men want submissive, feminine women. However, submissive, feminine women want a man who has money. So that's a problem, right? Where does it meet? How does it work? I can't say that I know for sure, but I would say meet halfway, right? Take the money out of the equation, right? And take somewhat the submission out of the equation. Now, the Bible does say that women should submit to their husbands. I get that. Personal, I can only speak from personal feelings and experience, I've never, even though I agree with the Bible, I've never felt the need for a woman to be submissive. I think a woman being, I don't even know if I'd use the word submissive. I mean, I guess technically it's submissive. I like amiable women. I would use a word more like amiable, meaning she's pleasant. She's agreeable. I don't always have to have my way. I don't always have to suggest what we should be doing or what we shouldn't be doing. I don't always have to take the lead per se. I'm not so egotistic. There's a lot of men out there, I don't know if I use the word egotistical, but there's a lot of men out there, and you could argue that it's masculine. Men need to take the lead, blah, 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 right? Maybe. I've never felt the need to be so much in control of a relationship where I feel like, oh, I'm taking the lead and everything, and it's, I don't know, man. To me, and maybe that's my liberal side. You know, when I was younger, I felt like I was a liberal until I really met these SJW radical leftists, and then I don't want anything to do with the liberal party, right? After that. But before that, to me, old school liberalism used to be just about equality. You know, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, you can leave me alone, I'll leave you alone, right? That's kind of how how I used to be before I realized that the left, modern left, is nuts. So that's kind of how I feel a little bit. It's like, yeah, you bring something to the table, I bring something to the table, we just meet, we're like a team, you're amiable, I'm amiable with you, and if need be, I'll protect your life because I'm a man. If need be, I'll, fight off intruders to protect you, and then, you can, to whatever extent, complement my life. But to me, it's not about, I don't need to be the ultimate leader, and I don't need to be the breadwinner, necessarily. But again, it's a conundrum, because what happens when the woman is a breadwinner is she's oftentimes bossy, or because just people are so, in the world, how their mind is, how their mind is registered, or I can't think of the word, how their mind is made up. They think that if they make more money than you, they're better than you. They think that, oh, I make money, this person makes less money or doesn't make enough money, so therefore I can automatically like order this person around or something. And that was never like my thing, like, oh, I make more money than you so I can order you around. Like, that's nonsense. It's because I make money and I guess that just goes to show like how much value you put in money. And I have never really put that much value in money, at least not in that sense. Money is necessary for survival. Money is nice if you want to do stuff. I trust in God, and I trust that God will give me good experiences, and enjoyment in life through His blessings. And there's suffering in life, and that's another story. It's another, it's another tangent. But a lot of people think that if they make enough money, they can avoid suffering. If they make enough money, then they don't need God. They make enough money. Money to them is like happiness. Money to them is not just, it's currency, but it's currency in way more ways than just buying a product. It means freedom. Money means, and it can. And I'm not saying that that's not strictly technically true. But the point is you're putting so much emphasis in money that it becomes an idol. You're putting so much emphasis in money that it becomes a replacement for God, when I look to God for my good experiences. People say things like, oh, well, yeah, you can't go out if you don't have money. You can't go out to eat. You can't go on vacation. You can't do this. You can't do that. And it's like, maybe not. But you know what? I can turn on YouTube and I can go on vacation in a 30-minute video. So it's like, God provides, in one way or another. Maybe I'm not physically in Jamaica or Hawaii, but I can go there on YouTube in 4K and see some beautiful stuff that I might not have even seen if I went there in person. Yes, it's not the same thing. I get that. But anyway, you kind of get what I'm saying. Is it better to have money than not? Sure, but if it becomes an idol, if it becomes like the foundation of your life and it becomes the foundation of your relationship, then that's a problem. So I go back to this is the question is, if she wouldn't date you, if she wouldn't marry you, if you didn't make a certain amount of money, is that real love? As I said before, I believe that female nature is exploitative of themselves. They sell themselves one way or another. It's just kind of observable. It's an empirical, observable thing, right? They're selling themselves. Whenever a parent teaches the daughter, oh, don't marry a guy unless he's a doctor, you're selling your daughter. You're selling your daughter. Hello? right? And if she's like, oh, I couldn't date a guy if he couldn't do X, Y, and Z for me financially, you're selling yourself. And I've argued that this is why it's so hard for men to get sex. This is why it's so hard for men to get a girlfriend or get a relationship or find a wife, because we're playing this hypergamy game. We're playing this finance game. And it doesn't really work. Again, marriages are ending. 50% of marriages are ending. I just turned on the news and Tom Brady, the amazing quarterback, is getting a divorce. Right? People are getting divorces left, right, and center. Just because, and when I say people, I mean celebrities. So just because you have money, that doesn't solve your problem. And I argue that if you marry a man because he's financially secure, you're sacrificing something. Passion, maybe sex, maybe in the bedroom you're sacrificing something. Maybe he's not as good looking as you wanted. Maybe he's not as the type of personality you wanted. A lot of women are settling and sacrificing something for providership, for a secure lifestyle, a secure home life. And when I look outside, when I see couples, when I see marriages and families, I don't see a whole lot of men and women, man and wife, husband and wife, I should say. I don't see a lot of husband and wives really deeply in love. I don't see them passionately, not in mass, sometimes, but not in mass. Most of the time, it's just this kind of situationship where, like, you take care of the bills, I provide the intimacy, right? So how is that not prostitution, is my argument. How is that not selling yourself, right? And it's a conundrum. I get it. Like, it's in the Bible. It says that, a man should provide for his family. But it doesn't really say that a woman should only choose a man who's got a decent amount of money. It never says that, right? So, I don't know. Maybe you meet the guy that you love and you guys work together and you make money together. What about that? What about that? It doesn't have to be this strict thing where, like, oh, unless he makes a certain amount right now, and so, but then also women will take advantage of that and be like, oh, let me invest in this guy. I've been invested in before because I'm intelligent or because I've got potential. And I've had women say that to me before. Oh, you're really ambitious, and that's a turn on. Oh, I really like how ambitious you are. And it was creepy, and I look back on it and I just cringe. It's like, you're like a predator where you're like preying on me because you're preying on my ambition. Like, it's weird, man. And I get it that it's like, it's genetically transferable. If a man is successful or he's capable and competent and gets things done and is able to provide and survive in this financial climate that we live in, then his genes are replicatable, and I guess that's sexy to them, which is a weird thing, man. It's like being exploited. It's like a leech. Like, you're only gonna come after me if I got money. It's very off-putting in the context of a relationship. I would not want a relationship like that. I would not want a woman who is interested in me because I'm genetically replicatable, because I'm genetically competent and successful and capable, and she wants to pass those genes on. Like, that's animalistic to me. It's weird. It's cringy. And I think a lot of men feel the same way. And when we say gold digger, a lot of people think, this really vapid type of woman, shallow, like, Las Vegas type women where they just want to, like, take you to a hotel room and, like, steal your wallet or something. Like, I would say the term gold digger can easily be applied to more than that. It can be applied to real relationships, real marriages. It might not be as overt. It might not be as obvious. But is the foundation of the relationship based on love? Is it based on shared attractive feelings for just that person and that person's personality? Or is it because you like his lifestyle? You like that he's a good provider? I think a lot of what women want is they really want a benefactor. They want like a guy who's got a castle and they can go live in the castle and feel secure, like these little you know, like you don't got to do anything. Like you can just bundle up in the bed and like, oh, you know, I've got daddy, my husband, who does everything, puts the food on the table, and a lot of times this is why women don't want to do housework and stuff. They just want to be lazy because it's like, oh, well, you know, all I did was marry a guy and I don't have to do anything for the rest of my life. Like, that's the dream, right? That's lazy. Would you want a lazy woman like that? Don't let these women exploit you. You know, look for a hard worker. Look for a woman with character. Look for the Proverbs woman, right? Go read what that is. Anyway, this is really one of the biggest things that I've talked about on my chest. It's one of the biggest things that I deal with personally, because it's just like, I know this is female nature, you know, and it's like I could, you know, part of the reason why I'm single, a big reason why I'm single in my life is because, you know, I wouldn't want to be exploited for money. And I've had plenty of women. I've had girlfriends who, you know, in the past who, you know, really, I remember there was one experience where, like, one time I was driving I had a girlfriend. One time I was driving and I didn't have any money and we were low on gas and we were like in a bad part of the bad part of the city, bad neighborhood in the city that we were living in. And, she got all freaked out and she's like, you know, what are we going to do? And all this stuff. And then she said something about our relationship. And she was like, how would we survive if you can't make money or something like that? And it struck home, man. And I was just like, wow. You know, like, I get it. Like I get the concern, but at the same time, like in her mind, she's thinking like, is this guy worth it? Based on finances, you see. So it's not just like, well, you know, what are we going to do? Let's make this happen somehow. She was like, should I even be with this guy? She was questioning if she should even be dating me because because we might have ran out of gas and I couldn't put gas in the tank. And it's like, yeah, maybe that's a bad thing on my resume, sure. But at the same time, like, you know, people might be like, oh, you're a man, you're supposed to provide. But at the same time, again, it's like, what kind of love do you have? You're not going to be with me in the trenches. You're not going to suffer with me. You're just going to pop onto the next dude, right? Think about that for a minute, you know? And so many times I've been on dates or like talking to girls at a bar or something, you know, not that I do that in my life now. I don't go to bars or even date anymore. As a Christian, being more consecrated, but in my past, you know, I would be out at a bar or something in my party days or whatever, and you know, girls would ask me constantly. They'd always at the bar, what do you do for, you know? And it's like, it's prostitution, man. There was a few times where I literally thought that the girl I was talking to was a prostitute. She may have been, I don't know, but then they asked me that question, like, what do you do for work? I thought she was a prostitute at the time. I was like, why is this? Why do you? You know, like in my mind, it didn't compute. It's like, aren't we all just out here to have fun? You're worried about what I do for work. But maybe you know, in the hindsight, I don't think she was. You know, knowing female nature as I know it now, they're always worried about that. They're concerned about that. They go amongst their family and friends and talk about it. What does he do for work? Woo, 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 woo. Can he provide for you? Right? That's what they do. I need a real man who can provide for me. I don't date no broke guys. Blah, blah, blah. There you go, man. That's prostitution. You are putting a price tag on intimacy and love. I will not get into a relationship with you if you don't have money. Prostitution. It's not cut and dry prostitution. It's not like, it's long-term prostitution. So there you go, man. And you know, that's what they're doing. That's what they're out there doing. They're putting a price tag on it. And if you think about it, like, is your love, is so many of these relationships out there today, is their love founded on, is their marriage founded on love? Is it founded on love, or is it founded on his ability to provide? I would argue on the latter. I would argue that it's founded on his ability to provide. Because if you remove that from the equation, 9 times out of 10, she's gone. 9 times out of 10, she's going to move on to the next guy, or she's going to have a divorce and she's going to make it all about her. And, I need to grow in my life and I'm going through changes and this, that, when she just doesn't want to admit she's shallow. They can't admit that because it's the truth and it would lower their value, and they know that. They can't admit that the real reason, they hate it. They hate to admit that. They hate to admit that that's part of their nature, but it is because they know it makes them shallow. And they know, and really the truth is that in that case, if that's the case, then love isn't real. Then real love isn't real. True love isn't real. Right? And we need to start expecting more from our women. We can't just be like, oh, she's a woman, she needs to be provided for, she's like a child. And it's like, no, I want a higher quality, I want a higher standard than that. I need somebody who's going to be down with me if I don't have money, if I'm struggling, if I'm nothing, if I'm a nobody. That's the real test of a woman's love. A real test of a man's love is if he's got all kinds of options and he doesn't cheat. A real test of a woman's love is when the man has nothing. It's when he's broke. How many of these relationships out here would dissolve through that test? Through that finance test? I would say easily the majority. 70-80% in my opinion. Maybe not as high as 90%, but 70-80% I think would dissolve. Just my opinion. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Appreciate you listening. Jay Lee, Northwest Podcast. Peace.